What's up everyone? John Renter from Techno Buffalo here, back with another smartphone smackdown. This episode we've got the king of Android, the Galaxy S3, squared up against the newcomer, the Blackberry Z10. We're going to talk about operating system, build quality, and go over what I like and don't like about both phones, and ultimately declare a winner. Let's get fighting. Alright, so on the left, if you couldn't tell by that giant logo, we've got the Blackberry Z10, the perky upstart challenger. On the right, we've got the stalwart, the king, the phone you know. This is the Samsung Galaxy S3. So this smartphone smackdown is going to be a little bit different. In the olden days, we could compare speeds, we could open up the browser at the same time, see which apps open quicker. That doesn't work anymore. All these phones are fast, and all these phones open applications relatively quickly. The 1/10 of a second or a 10 millisecond different really doesn't matter. So we're going to break this review down in a way we've never done before. I'm going to talk about what I like best about each phone. So if I mention build quality, for example, on the Blackberry Z10, that means I like it better on the Z10 than I do on the Galaxy S3. So let me go and jump in and get started, and let me give you a few disclaimers before I do. First, the Blackberry Z10 just came out a few weeks ago, whereas the S3 was released back in May. We're looking at a US spec Galaxy S3. This is for AT&T's network. We're looking at an unlocked Blackberry Z10 that they gave out at BlackBerry's conference just a few weeks ago, and it does have support for AT&T's LTE network. And in the past, I've tried to avoid talking about the operating system as a whole and really focus on the phones, but it's impossible to get away from with this review. The Blackberry operating system in BB10 was made for this phone. It's the first time we've really seen it mass-produced and available for public consumption. So we're going to talk a lot about the operating system and things that I like best about each. So it's not going to be physically all about the Galaxy S3 as a whole, but the software that runs on it as well. So let's go ahead and get started and start with the new guy on the block, the challenger, the Blackberry Z10. I just mentioned build quality. Let's go ahead and start there. I really actually like the build quality on the Z10. Both the Z10 and the S3 have plastic removable backs, but the body on the Z10 just feels better. Whether it's not the textured back or how flush it sits with the battery, you don't feel like it's got a removable plastic back. It almost feels like a unibody device. The bezel feels thicker, it feels better built, and it just feels more substantial in the hand. So another thing I really like about the Z10, and I think BlackBerry totally nailed this one, is multitasking. I love the way they handled it here. When you open an application, you get the little preview window, and it's not just a default preview window. A lot of apps actually show you relevant information about that app, sort of like Windows Live tiles. While I do wish you could close it like you can on the playbook by just swiping it off the screen, hitting the little X in the corner is not a big deal, but I really like the way they handled multitasking here. It's very, very elegant. And the multitasking window is your home screen. I really think BlackBerry just did a great job with that. One of the other things that BlackBerry is, of course, known for is email. And I think they hit this one out of the park, not surprisingly. I really like the unified inbox approach. Email came through so fast. It came through faster actually on the BlackBerry than it did even on my desktop computer. When you're talking about email on the Galaxy S3 or Android device, Samsung's email client I think is awful and has a long way to go to improve. Now obviously the Android caveats are here. You can download third-party apps to improve. I usually use K9 for my Android email. You can use secondary apps obviously like Gmail, but the lack of a unified inbox kind of makes that annoying for me personally. I know you can do tweaks with the routing to make emails come through a little bit quicker, but sort of the out-of-the-box experience, BlackBerry hit this one right out of the park. So one of the highlights of BB10 are gestures and how gestures work. BlackBerry Peek, it seems kind of gimmicky, but I found myself using it more and more and more. I'd see my notification light blink red. I wanted to know if I had an email, who it was from, if it had a reply right away. And just by peeking in and just by swiping up and moving my finger over to the right a little bit, I could just get a quick look at my inbox. Even just swiping straight up and holding my finger on the screen, I could see that little red asterisk to know if I had an email, a text message, or whatever else it might be. It was really handy and something that I found myself using quite a bit. Speaking of using quite a bit, you're going to want to hit a home button quite a bit on the BlackBerry if you're coming from an iPhone, Windows Phone, or an Android device, but there is not a home button to be found. The home mechanism is to swipe straight up. Now, first, that was one of the more annoying things about the phone. But the more I used it, sort of days and days and weeks on, I got really used to it. I found myself liking it. And as I switched back to Android or tried iOS again, I kept trying to swipe up on the screen. Surprisingly, that was something that I really enjoyed about the BlackBerry Z10. I wish other OSs would actually use it. If you've never tried it, it's definitely something it's going to take a while to get used to, but it does become second nature very quick. So when BlackBerry announced the Z10 and BlackBerry 10 in particular, they were really touting the keyboard awesomeness. And they also hit a home run with this guy. The keyboard is probably the best on-screen keyboard I have ever used. The frets are in a great place. I love how it starts to fill in words for you as you're typing. You can just swipe them right up on the screen. It became second nature and it learns as you go. And I love what BlackBerry did by putting a touch sensor underneath the screen. So if you've got fat fingers, you accidentally hit the O key, you meant to hit the P key, it'll sense that and actually will move those contact points over. They really did a cool job, and of course everything I'm talking about, if you want more detail on it, definitely check out our BlackBerry Z10 review or our Galaxy S3 review, which is going to run through all these features in depth. But the keyboard, they absolutely nailed. If you're a BlackBerry purist and you're coming from a bold or an older curve and you don't want to give up that physical keyboard, you could wait for the Q10 to come out for a few months in May-ish, or you could take the plunge and try the keyboard on the Z10. I really don't think you're going to be disappointed. And using the Z10 week after week, it never felt slow to me. It always felt fast. It never felt bogged down. The dual-core processor and 2 gigs of RAM were awesome. And I think that's due to the vertical integration model. What that means is BlackBerry makes the software and BlackBerry makes the hardware. So this phone was made just for this operating system. They didn't have to deal with really anything else that went into it. Now, they certainly outsourced the processor, and there are components in there. But the phone was built for this operating system in particular, which is really an incredible model when executed properly. And it worked beautifully. I didn't feel any sort of lag at all while using the Z10. It felt quick, it felt zippy, and it really just worked well. Never at any point, no matter how many applications I had open, did I feel like the phone was slow or needed to catch up with what I was doing. So when it comes to speed, and this was surprising to me too, the BlackBerry Z10 definitely took that. And the last edge that I'm going to give to the Z10 is the screen itself. It's a 4.2-inch screen with a resolution of 768 by 1280 with a 355 ppi. The screen itself was actually beautiful, which I was pleasantly surprised about because Samsung is really known for putting out awesome screens. Pictures look great, videos popped, text was crisp and clear, and this is a huge compliment to BlackBerry because Samsung has some of the best screens on the market, but I think they absolutely nailed it, and it's great to see a high-def screen finally on BlackBerry. Alright, so we talked about all the awesomeness that is in the BlackBerry Z10. What about the awesomeness that's in the Galaxy S3? This phone currently sits as the king of Android and has for the past few months, and it's got that position for a reason. There's a lot of stuff to love. So let's go ahead and first start with apps. The Google Play Store has a ton of applications, and I found myself when I was using the Z10 wishing that I could finally go back and use Instagram and some of the other apps that BlackBerry said is coming, but just aren't here yet. Things like Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. I just wish they could have. I knew when I was using an Android device, particularly the Galaxy S3, that any app I wanted, there would be an Android version. And that's just because the OS has been around for years, and BlackBerry does not have that luxury. While they claim to have 70,000 apps, not many of them are overly useful. So apps is something the Galaxy S3 absolutely has over the Z10. Next is browser, one of the things I use absolutely the most on the phone. The browser on the Galaxy S3 and really Android in general is pretty incredible. I'm talking about the built-in browser, not even Google Chrome, which I know a lot of you guys use, and Chrome would have been the same thing here. Incredible browser, it was smooth, it was quick, everything just worked very well. And of course, mobile websites are optimized to work with Android devices. And now certainly they're based on the same basic technology, it's a WebKit, so things worked pretty well on the Z10, but everything worked perfectly on the Galaxy S3, and you'll find that's true, of course, of almost any Android device. So the Z10 has a speech-to-text functionality built in, and it works as you talk, it'll type, but nothing holds a candle to what Google has on Android devices. And I think the Galaxy S3 is one of the perfect examples of that. Speech-to-text just works great and quick as you talk. You get punctuation, it shows up almost instantaneously. and it just works. At the end of the day, that's really what you want from your phone. You want it just to work. You don't have to think about all the things your phone is doing to make the processes go. You just want the phone to do what you need. And when it comes to speech to text, it absolutely nails it. And of course, Google Now. I love Google Now for knowing how long it takes me to get home, sports scores, stocks. Google Now is an incredible add-on. Comes with Jelly Bean built in, and of course, the Galaxy S3 features that. It just works very well. And again, that's the theme here. Things just work on Android. It used to be the hallmark of iOS, but Android has really come up very quickly. One of the other great things about Android in particular is customization. On the Z10, you can't do that much. You can change the background, you can make folders, but that's really it. You don't have options to put widgets and change the way icons look and change fonts really to the depth that you can on the Galaxy S3 or Android. It just worked much better. And that's the moral here. Things just worked better on the Galaxy S3. So the next thing that I think that the Galaxy S3's got over the Z10, something I never thought I'd say, actually TouchWiz itself has a really lot of nice additions here that's come along very well over the years. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the cartoonish look and the big, bright icons and that kind of things, but TouchWiz does have a lot of nice functionality. You know, you've got things like all the S functionality here as well. You've got S Memo, S Suggests, and of course S Voice, and all the tweaks that go into it as well. Anything from how the home screens perform to the widgets. TouchWiz has come along very well and isn't as heavy as it once was. So I give Samsung credit, and certainly that edge goes to the Galaxy S3. So I mentioned in the Z10 one of the things I liked was the gestures, but what I missed was physical home buttons for back and menu. I found myself searching for where the menu option was on the Z10. While I preferred the home button swipe gesture on the Blackberry, I did miss the back and menu buttons and the physical buttons found on the Galaxy S3, or the capacitive buttons that are here. So I talked about how much I like the screen itself on the Blackberry Z10, but I prefer the screen size on the Galaxy S3. If Sir Mix-a-Lot taught me anything, it's bigger is better. And I really like the bigger 4.8-inch screen on the Galaxy S3. When it comes to the screen itself, that edge still goes to the Z10, but the size, I like my phones big, and I prefer the larger screen size of the Galaxy S3. So which one would I pick if I had to choose one of these phones? If I had to choose one of these phones for you, the winner would be the Galaxy S3 for a few simple reasons. First, and probably most importantly, I know Samsung is going to be around for the next 2 years, or the duration of my contract, or 3 years if you're in Canada. You can't say the same for Blackberry. They've got a great operating system, and they've got what now looks to be a brighter future, but there's no guarantee. And what that's going to mean for you is future support. Samsung hasn't been known to push out a ton of OS updates for their phones. They're kind of slow, but they do come. And Samsung's going to continue to support it. There's going to be customer service. Warranties will be honored. And I think that that would be one of the main reasons I would choose a Galaxy S3 over a Blackberry Z10. Now, BlackBerry's done an incredible job with the Z10. It's probably the best first generation operating system that's ever come out. But as I mentioned in the review, if you want to catch the competition and you're losing in a race, which BlackBerry certainly is right now, you can't just run as fast. You have to run faster. And I don't think BlackBerry is running any faster. I like the scalability of Android. I like everything about the Galaxy S3, and this phone is the winner for a reason, and it's the king of Android for several months while so many competitors have come out for a reason. It's a great phone on a great platform. It's available on pretty much any carrier. You can pick this up almost anywhere you go in any country, so there's always going to be support for it. So the winner of the smartphone smackdown is the Galaxy S3, and I know a lot of this seems like Android versus BlackBerry 10, but that's the only way to approach something like this with such a new operating system found in the Z10. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked the video, you like this style of smartphone smackdown, give this a thumbs up. It really helps us out. Check us out at technobuffalo.com for the latest and greatest tech news. I will see you guys in the next video.